He's either bulking out or cutting and taking performance-enhancing drugs, at least we assume he is. What can he do to be healthier and safer than last time? Coach Greg, in today's video, we're going over a doctor's steroid cycle for Sam Sulek. And so what exactly should Sam Sulek be doing as far as performance-enhancing drugs and anti-aging methods in order to be healthier than last time?
He lifts like he's got cerebral palsy and follows the My 600-Pound Life diet.
And so seeing as he's reckless with his diet, he's either following the 600-pound loser diet or he's eating on a strict diet cut for a bikini competitor. He's either bulking out or cutting and taking performance-enhancing drugs, at least we assume he is. What can he do to be healthier and safer than last time?
So given my medical experience as a doctor and my past life as a bodybuilder, I've been able to come up with ways to mitigate risk to help keep people like Sam healthy.
And so remember, I am not a doctor. We don't know exactly what Sam's taking, but we're doing this to try to help the most amount of people possible.
I think I can devise a plan to keep Sam making the same progress that he's making now without ending up in an early grave.
And so remember, do not take performance-enhancing drugs without the advice and consent from your doctor, and never, ever, I do mean ever, break the law.
We know that the protein accretion rate really on a milligram to milligram basis really doesn't change between these compounds. So it doesn't make much sense to run testosterone.
And so what he's saying is when people use multiple compounds at the same time, there's no reason to use tests at higher doses than last time. And so although a beginner cycle perhaps is 300, 400, 500 milligrams a test, an advanced cycle can actually contain the same amount of testosterone. You're thinking, no, it has to be 1,000, perhaps 2,000, maybe 5,000 milligrams. It's not true. You keep testosterone at a normal range, perhaps 500 milligrams or less, and you add other compounds that stack onto it. If you increase testosterone too high, 700, 800, 900, 1,000 milligrams, there's going to be too much estrogen conversion. If you do that, you're going to have to take an anti-estrogen. Perhaps you're going to have to use Arimidex, Nolvadex, Clomid, Femra, and that's going to force you to use other compounds, and the less compounds you use, the better. There's a term known as polypharmacy. Polypharmacy increases the risk of adverse reactions to medications. The more drugs, the higher the risk of drug interactions. Research has shown that patients taking 5 to 9 medications have a 50% chance of an adverse drug interaction, increasing to 100% when they're taking 20 or more medications. And so rather than increasing your testosterone to a point where you need Arimidex or something to control getting gyno, having too much estrogen conversion, getting a puffy and watery look, why not keep the test lower than last time and add something different? Add something else on top of it. And should that be tren? Absolutely not. When you're in the off season, you should not be using tren. Tren is very strong, builds 3 times more muscle than testosterone, 5 times more than Masteron or Primo, but you should save it for when you really need it. It's not a compound to just add in year round. I know so many people taking tren year round. It's not good for the body, it's not good for the mind. Save it for when you really need it.
Really, that framework starts with testosterone as a base, DHT as the second one to deploy, then nandrolone at the end.
And so what bodybuilders want to do is they want to stack various steroids together. Lower levels of testosterone combined with 1 or 2 extra anabolics. For example, you could add in Equipoise, Deca, you could add in Masteron, Primo, and you stack them all together, oftentimes with an oral. That will allow you to build the biggest base. Some are more anabolic, others are more androgenic. And so if you use a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit over here, you get all the benefits add to one, makes it like a pyramid. Rather than just having one compound and using a shitload of it, it doesn't offer the same benefits of using several and pyramiding up.
When it comes to bodybuilding, one of the biggest issues that we deal with is blood pressure. A lot of the drugs that we take in bodybuilding activate a system called the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system.
And so one of the problems of taking anabolic steroids, and I did experience this in the past, is the dreaded moon face. It looks like you're bloated, you're holding on a ton of water. It's not a good look. This often can come from increased blood pressure. Very unhealthy. Blood pressure, probably the number one thing you need to be concerned with when taking performance-enhancing drugs. And oftentimes you're taking things that retain a lot of water, you're going to increase your blood pressure. 120/80 is the golden standard. And so don't think, oh, as long as it's under 145, as long as it's not over 85, I'm all right. No, you're not. When you go to the doctor and they test you and it comes back 135/85, of which I've had in the past while taking performance-enhancing drugs, doctor says, you're fine, it's only a little bit over. They're thinking it's white coat syndrome. Because the doctor's testing you and you're anxious, you're nervous, that's increasing your blood pressure. But what if it's not? What if it's always that high? It's not good. It can, in fact, dramatically shorten your life. And so please take your blood pressure readings more often than last time.
Elevated blood pressure leads to our heart working harder, specifically one of the chambers of our heart called the left ventricle.
And so what you need to know is rather than how much steroids you're taking, larger doses, test trend, whatever you're taking, consider that is not what's causing the main problem, which is left ventricular hypertrophy. That is when your heart becomes muscle bound. You're thinking hypertrophy of the heart? That's good. It's going to make it stronger. It's not. It makes it more sluggish, harder to pump out the blood. Just think of it, it's muscle bound. It can't wipe its own ass. It doesn't know what it's doing. You want a flexible, loose, and easily to move around heart muscle. If you have left ventricular hypertrophy caused by increased blood pressure, that is not good. In fact, it's awful. It's horrible.
Because left ventricular hypertrophy can lead to something called congestive heart failure. And I'm sure you've assumed that heart failure is not a good thing.
Most bodybuilders, they write it off. Oh, it's no big deal. It's only a little bit elevated. They don't care. They're not worried. You need to be worried. You need to think about this. All of you watching this, do what you need to do to get your blood pressure lower than last time. For me, eating a healthy diet, doing cardio. My blood pressure is never over 120/80. It's never that high. 110/70. Common for me. But when I was on steroids at abusive doses, was always over 120. 130 plus over 80 to 85, very common. That is not good. At the time I thought, that's not bad. It's only a little bit elevated. Do you really want a little bit of left ventricular hypertrophy, which decreases ejection volume and makes it harder for your heart to pump properly? Of course not. This is not good. And so you may notice some bodybuilders, they're getting fluid that pools their legs, they're getting swollen ankles and so on. This is a horrible sign. This means you're clearly doing something wrong. This is the result of not enough blood reaching your extremities due to decreased blood circulation from left ventricular hypertrophy. And so please check your blood pressure. Make sure it's not above 120/80. And if you're using steroids, especially those that are water intensive, for example, D-bol, testosterone, and so on, these very likely to increase your blood pressure, very scary, and so please think twice. And if you get your blood pressure done and it's 140/90, start to panic. Get off of the stuff that you're taking.
High blood pressure can also blow out our kidneys, and I literally mean blow out.
And so this increase in blood pressure, forcing the blood to the kidneys too quickly, is going to cause irreversible kidney damage. This is not something that you can get back. The liver, in comparison, it can handle things. You can get wasted, drink too much alcohol, most likely it's going to repair itself. The kidneys, once they're gone, they do not come back.
Now, luckily, there's drugs to counteract this, like angiotensin receptor blockers, or ARBs for short.
And so rather than taking ARBs to counteract the effect of something else, which we just went over as polypharmacy, why don't we just reduce or not take it in the first place? Oh, let's just blast everything under the sun and take an ARB. It's perfect, no problem. Are you kidding me? This is not the solution. And so I don't want people to suggest that you can simply take something to counteract something else. And so sure, it perhaps lowers your blood pressure. That's great. But what about your red blood cell count? What about that? Is it not going to be too high? And so do you really think taking an ARB to lower your blood pressure is the solution to everything? You can't just take an ARB, lower your blood pressure, and think it's not having any adverse effects on anything else in the body.
Now, my favorite of the ARBs is a drug called telmisartan. In a way, it's kind of like a performance-enhancing drug in and of itself.
And so in hearing this, I'm thinking, telmisartan, oh my goodness, where do I get it? This is the holy grail. I need this. It almost sounded as good as GO2 Max. But of course it's not. Do you really think you just take telmisartan and ARB and wow, I can blast everything? You absolutely cannot. This to me is going too far. People watching this video are going to think, I can blast gear. I just have to take a few other compounds to mitigate its effects and I'm good. But let me tell you this, you are absolutely not. This is not going to be the solution. The solution is to stop taking everything, or at least lower the doses.
Even though I don't have high blood pressure and I'm not on PEDs, I still take telmisartan daily for its longevity benefits and those performance-enhancing abilities that it possesses.
Well, if he's actually getting this much benefit from a drug that's given to old people, there's probably something already wrong with him. Perhaps he doesn't want to admit it. Do you really think a healthy young individual would need something like this? After all, let's take Coach Greg. My blood pressure 110/70. Do you really think I need blood pressure medication, telmisartan, to make me healthier, to live longer than last time? Of course not. I'm doing my cardio and I'm healthy because of that. If you start relying on medication rather than a healthy diet and exercise, well, it's going to be a downhill spiral from there.
Definitely get Sam on an ARB if his blood pressure is running anywhere over 120/80. That's because numerous studies have shown us that that's about as high as we ever want it to be.
Or you could take something different. You could lower the doses. If you're getting too much swelling, moon face, and so on because you're taking too much testosterone, could you consider taking less testosterone? And so just because you're taking ARBs does not mean that you're going to mitigate all the negative effects of testosterone. And so what else are they going to suggest? We now take a beta blocker to block the fight or flight reflex? Does this make sense? You can see polypharmacy going on harder than last time. We need to reduce the total number of drugs you can take. And so when given a choice on a cycle to take 10 different drugs or less, choose less.
Next, I'd consider lowering his lipids. By lipids, I mean cholesterol, and more specifically, a certain type of cholesterol called ApoB containing particles like LDL.
And up next, well, we now need to give a drug to lower cholesterol. We want more of the good cholesterol, less of the bad. And so another drug for this, another drug for that. More drugs, please.
But again, since these drugs are pretty powerful at skewing our lipids, Sam might need a little bit more, something like a statin. My choice for that is rosuvastatin, usually around 5 milligrams, 2 to 3 times a week.
Why not add in a statin? And he says, literally, I'm going to lose half my followers. We don't want to start taking statins to combat the negative side effects of anabolic steroids. It's too much. If you need to take a statin, you're taking too many drugs, you need to reevaluate your life. Is it in fact worth it?
For some reason, you're willing to take drugs that were made for cattle like Tren, but when I mention statin, you freak out.
And so his point is, hey, if you're going to take Tren, you're going to take this drug and that drug, it's not made for humans. Why can't you take a statin? Well, my point is, don't take either. You need to be healthy. And so, yeah, if you don't care about your life, you only want to live 10 or 15 years from now, and you're okay with dying in your 40s, well, absolutely. Abuse all these drugs, take a bit extra this, a bit extra that. We'll get you to 47. Well, I'm already 48, and I don't plan to die sooner than last time. And so my advice, if you need to take anything, if you go to the doctor, you get your blood work, and it doesn't look good, take that as a warning sign. Take that as you are lucky you found out now. Because if you continue to take what you're doing, do you really think you're going to make it to 48? I'm 48 years of age. I enjoy racing bikes. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. And so if you think, oh, as long as I make the 45, that's all I need. I don't care about living past that. I'm happier at 48 than I was at 38, than at 28, and at 18. And so please remember this. You cannot get your time back on this earth. Once it's gone, it's gone. You want to live as long as humanly possible. And I can tell you, when you're young and you're experimenting with drugs, it feels like it's worth it. But as you get older, you're going to look back and say, why did I do this? Why was I doing that? Sam Sulek does not need to take Tren, doesn't need to take anything. He already has an amazing physique. He looks incredible. He hasn't even competed yet. And so why abuse performance-enhancing drugs? He doesn't need to.
Our risk of side effects here is pretty low. Now compare that to something like Tren, where almost 100% of people experience some type of side effect. You're pretty safe here taking a statin.
And he's right. Close to 100% of people taking Tren experience negative side effects. And so don't take Tren. Don't do the 30-day TikTok challenge. Don't add in Tren to your cycle. You don't need it. And yeah, I get it. You don't care about your life. You want to be an IFBB pro. Well, some of you're going to do what you're going to do. I can't be a hypocrite. I did it. I wanted that pro card. Was I smart about it? Absolutely not. And so don't make the same mistake that I did.
So to offset some of this inflammation and oxidative stress, we're going to add in some antioxidants. And you should really start this by adding in more fruits and vegetables into your diet.
And so he states, obviously, eat your fruits and vegetables. To me, that is paramount. Get in more fruits and vegetables. Strawberries, blueberries, all the fruits and vegetables you can eat. If you're not, you can at least consume NAC, NAC, or a greens powder. We have an amazing one here at HDLT Sups. You can get it by using code Greg and saving 10% off. But please, better than this, please eat more fruits and vegetables. Not only is it going to help you to stay in a calorie deficit or prevent you from being obese, which is of course going to help you to lower your blood pressure, it's also going to make you healthy. The micronutrients, you need these. And so if you truly want to be healthy and you value your health and you're on performance enhancing drugs, at least have a healthy diet. At least do 150 minutes of cardio. But if you're avoiding cardio, which Sam Sulek says everyone should be doing their cardio, at least he's smart enough, intelligent enough to preach people need cardio, you also need fruits and vegetables. You need to be healthy.
Next would be melatonin, which I would say is arguably the next most potent antioxidant our body produces. So I would take a high dose of this, probably around 10 milligrams a night before bed.
And personally, not a fan of taking 10 milligrams of melatonin. That is a very high dose. I would not take more than 4 milligrams. We do have melatonin in Delta Sleep, but many people, if they take higher doses of melatonin, they don't like it. And so I would not advise you to suddenly take 10 milligrams of melatonin. Much more important than that, eat some fruit and vegetables. If you have difficulty sleeping, you can try Delta Sleep. And if it's beyond that, please go and consult your doctor.
DHEA and pregnenolone, not necessarily an antioxidant, but I do feel like our bodies get depleted of these neurosteroids when we're using high dose gear. So add these in for more cognitive support.
And so DHEA and pregnenolone, if you're taking performance enhancing drugs, nothing wrong with adding that. It's not going to have any negative effect. And so if you are in fact natural and you're female and you take DHEA and pregnenolone, you can in fact boost your testosterone levels. And if you're man and you're natural, go and get your blood work done. See if you're deficient in DHEA. And if you are, by all means, and if it's legal, take DHEA and pregnenolone.
Let's talk food. The amount of food part of this equation is definitely something that Sam doesn't have a problem with.
And so clearly Sam has a horrendous diet when he's bulking. You've all seen the diet. I don't think we have to go into any of this. You all know his diet sucks ass. Don't copy that diet. And you now know he's on a cut. So much better to eat a balanced, healthy diet. So please, any of you who are taking more performance enhancing drugs than last time, eat your fruits and vegetables, have a healthy, balanced diet. Try not to become obese. Keep your blood pressure in check. Ending it here. Interested in any of the Harder Than Last Time supplements? Try to stay natural. You can get them on my website, code Greg, 10% off. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algo, like the video if you liked it, watch one of those 2 bloops, and of course, the cookbooks, the training books, coaching plans by me and my team, the Circle Diet book, the Harder Than Last Time clothing line, all on my website, code Greg, 10% off. The free diet training program, it's close to 50 pages. Send your first, last name, and your emails is coming straight to you. And until next time, I am out.